Zoltraak. Zoltraak is probably the most iconic spell in the entire series, and for good reason. It's essentially become the signature spell of the modern mage world. Here's the thing though. Zoltraak wasn't originally Frieren's. It was developed by the demon Qual as what the series calls killing magic. Pure, efficient, designed to end lives. Frieren took that spell and rewrote it. She modified the formula, reworked its application, and transformed it from a weapon of slaughter into what's now classified as demon-killing magic. Her contributions to the research of Zoltraak were so significant that the spell is now universal. Every modern mage learns it. It's essentially the AK-47 of the Frieren magic world. Judradjim. If Zoltraak is the precision rifle, Judradjim is the artillery. Frieren calls down multiple bolts of lightning from her staff, directed at her target. The visual is stunning, and the power behind it is no joke. We first see it clearly during the battle against her Spiegel clone, which, if you've seen that arc, you know how intense that fight gets. Her clone also shows an additional application of the spell, sheathing the staff itself in lightning, essentially making it an electrified weapon capable of blocking a blast of fire with a swing. The clone then releases a single concentrated beam of lightning from the staff, a more focused, devastating version of the multi-bolt form. Frieren reserves Judradjim for particularly powerful enemies. It's not a spell she throws around casually. When Judradjim comes out, she's serious. Vollzanbel is exactly what it sounds like, hellfire. Frieren creates a massive blast of fire that envelops the battlefield in front of her, hot enough to melt certain materials in the surrounding environment. This is a spell with serious history behind it. Frieren was using Vollzanbel during her time with the hero party, meaning she's carried this spell for decades at minimum. It's old, powerful, and deeply familiar to her. Black hole. This one doesn't have an official name yet in the translated materials, but it's notable enough to deserve its own entry. Frieren's Spiegel clone uses this spell to create what can only be described as a black hole, a vortex that pulls surrounding objects into it and ultimately pulverizes them. It's gravitational magic at its most dangerous. The fact that this spell exists in Frieren's repertoire tells you something important. She doesn't just collect cute folk magic. Somewhere in her 1,000 years of living, she picked up something capable of simulating a gravitational singularity. That's not a spell you stumble onto. The height of magic. This one deserves a moment. Fern, one of the most skilled young mages in the series, watches Frieren's Spiegel clone use this attack and calls it the height of magic. That's the label. That's the ceiling of what Fern can comprehend in the moment. What makes this spell so terrifying? A few things. First, you cannot sense the mana when it's cast. Most magic in this world is detectable through mana reading. You feel something coming, you react. This spell bypasses that entirely. You can't sense it. Second, the target cannot recognize it as a spell at all. It doesn't look like magic, it doesn't feel like magic, it just happens to you. The spell appears to produce a powerful telekinetic repulsion effect. It pins Fern against a wall with enough force to destroy her staff. But, and this is critical, it leaves the caster completely defenseless after use. All guard drops. You better finish the job, because you won't be able to defend yourself for a moment after. And here's the detail that makes this hit differently. Frieren says it's been about 80 years since she last had to use it. 80 years. Meaning, the last time she needed to reach for this, the absolute last resort in her arsenal, was almost certainly the final battle against the Demon King himself. This spell is the thing she pulls out when everything else has failed. That is a terrifying thing to have in your back pocket. Mana Strike. This one is unique because it's a spell Frieren didn't have before the fight. During her battle against Solitaire, Frieren watches her opponent use a Mana Strike technique, and then immediately copies it and turns it back on her. Hexagonal Barriers. This is the standard defensive magic that most modern mages use. Hexagonal protective barriers that can shield specific locations or encircle the caster. It's the baseline defense against offensive magic like Zoltraak. Frieren uses it, but what's notable is that she's so far beyond needing it most of the time. When we see her pulling up a barrier, it's usually because the opponent has earned that level of respect. Mental Defense. This one is fascinating. Frieren maintains a complex, multi-layered mental defense built on an old spell formula. It's specifically designed to resist hypnosis and mind-affecting magic. The key word here is old spell formula. This isn't modern defensive technique. This is something from centuries past, probably something she built or refined over decades of encountering demons who specialize in exactly this kind of magic. Method, one of the most skilled mages in the series, explicitly states that only specialists, people who dedicate their entire craft to mental magic, might be able to bypass it, and even then, when it was breached once by Grausam the Miraculous, one of the 7 sages of destruction, it left detectable traces of the intrusion. Frieren's mental fortress doesn't just resist, it records. She can tell when someone's been inside her head. That detail is chilling and brilliant in equal measure. Diagoldze Nullification Spell. This spell is special because of how Frieren got it. She encountered Mock's curse, Diagoldze, and instead of just working around it, she spent 2 full months analyzing it, breaking it apart, understanding its fundamental structure. And then she built a spell that nullifies it entirely. Not just counters it, nullifies it, makes it ineffective. 2 months for 1 spell against 1 curse. Flight magic, self-explanatory but worth noting. Frieren can fly. She can levitate and maneuver through the air freely. It shows up enough throughout the series that it's clearly deeply internalized, not a spell she has to think about, just something she does. Sealing magic. Frieren once sealed the powerful demon Qual by turning him to stone. That seal held for 80 years before it began to degrade. Think about that. 80 years. An actively maintained magical seal on a demon of Qual's caliber, holding for 8 decades. Qual, by the way, is the demon whose original killing magic became Zoltraak. This is not a minor demon. This is someone dangerous enough that Frieren decided permanent imprisonment was the right call, and she built a prison that lasted nearly a century. Telekinesis. She uses this all the time, clearing debris, moving objects around in day-to-day life. It's the kind of spell a 1,000-year-old elf who has been collecting magic forever would absolutely have fully mastered. Golem magic. Golem magic is where things get genuinely impressive on the support side. Frieren can take disjointed stones and shape them into movable puppet golems that respond to her will. She's used a person-sized version to entertain the hero party, just for fun, just for the joy of it. She's also created a gigantic combat version during the Ruins of the King's Tomb arc that she uses against her Spiegel clone. The combat golem doesn't just move according to her commands. It can cast duplicates of other spells she's using simultaneously. It's essentially a magical copy of herself that she's puppeting while also fighting directly. Dispelling magic. Frieren can analyze an opponent's spell in real time and cancel it out entirely. Her staff glows gold when she casts it, one of the more visually distinctive tells in her arsenal. We first see it in full force against Aura's undead army, where Frieren systematically frees corpses from Aura's Auserlise, the spell that had enslaved them. She didn't just defeat the undead, she freed them, one by one. That's not just power, that's grace. Dispelling magic feeds back into her broader philosophy. True mastery of magic means understanding it deeply enough to undo it. Lost and Found. One of the most beloved spells in the fandom for a reason. This spell identifies the location of a lost accessory by making it glow brightly. That's it. That's the whole thing. There's no combat application. There's no strategic value in battle. Frieren collected this spell because she thinks it's wonderful. Poison detection. Frieren can determine what type of poison or venom someone has been afflicted with. She does this by reading a recognizable reaction in the afflicted person. But, and this is important, she's not a priest. Poison analysis is traditionally the domain of healing clergy, not offensive mages. When Stark gets bitten by a snake and shows an unusual reaction, Frieren can't identify it precisely. This limitation is important. It's a reminder that Frieren's magic collection, vast as it is, still has edges. She didn't collect this spell out of expertise. She collected it because it was useful and interesting. But useful and interesting isn't the same as mastery. Flower spell. This is the most important spell on the entire list. Frieren's mentor Flam taught it to her. It's Flam's favorite magic, the ability to produce a beautiful field of flowers. Frieren can choose exactly which flowers bloom, as long as she's seen the flower before. Flam's dying wish was for Frieren to use this spell on her grave. And Frieren does. She grows a field of flowers around her mentor's resting place, exactly as asked. She also avoids using this spell in everyday life. Not because it's dangerous or difficult, because it brings up memories of Flam. Because some magic carries too much love in it to use casually. That's the spell that gets me every time. A field of flowers, held back, saved, because it means too much to be ordinary. Bird Capture. During the first-class mage exam, Frieren uses a folk magic spell to capture a bird, specifically to help catch a stille, a rare bird-like creature that's part of the exam. The spell is described as originally developed by hunters. It can trap any bird or bird-like creature within a 50-centimeter range. Frieren taught it to Fern, who uses it as well. It produces a glow when used, small, practical, beautiful, in the way that highly specific tools are beautiful.